Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Remember in the last video, you saw how I built this barn literally from the ground up. Well, in the time since that video, I made a few scheduled and unscheduled modifications. As you build a project, you find that you need things or you didn't need things. So I'm going to give you a tour of the barn. To start, we're going to look at the outside over here. The last video, I only had one in and outdoor done. You can see now that on the Galapagos Tortoise side, both of these are completed. I use the same rubber matting that I use in their old enclosures to kind of encourage them to see something familiar. So when it gets colder out and when it starts to get dark out, they go in here. Now right now, they're blocked off. I haven't opened this up for the day yet, but I really need to because it's starting to get pretty warm in there. Right now, it's about 58 degrees out here, almost 60 degrees. Inside, thanks to the polycarbonate, the clear polycarbonate that I've put up here, it's about 95 in there. And that is way better than I ever could have hoped for. So this is one of those modifications that was planned. An unplanned modification, but something that came up, I put sprinkler heads in. And as you can see, even though it's really low, because those Galapagos tortoises are like basically little lawnmowers, you can see it's very green over here. That's due to the sprinklers, but also recently we've had a good amount of rain. Another unplanned modification, you can see a lot of the foam in here that I've put. The foam is primarily designed to keep the drafts out. I was hoping it would have a waterproofing effect, but unfortunately it didn't. So I just got some of the As Seen on TV Flex Seal and painted all the top. You can see where it kind of dripped here. But I painted that top up there, and the last couple times that it's rained, I've had no water dripping into the tortoise barn. I'm so happy about that. Another unplanned modification, although it's something that I knew I needed to do down here, is security. When you have your tortoises living outside, I don't live in a neighborhood, I do live kind of out in the country, but there is a decent amount of crime out here. And when you have your very rare, very valuable tortoises outside, you want to keep them protected. So if you look behind me, you can see one of several Wi-Fi cameras that I've placed out here amongst all the tortoise paddocks. There's one inside the barn, there's one facing north, facing south. I have some east and west ones to show all points of entry into the yard, unless somebody just comes up and over the block fence. It's possible, but it's not likely. But still, if they do, these cameras will let me know. These cameras aren't going to stop anybody from stealing something, but they're pretty good that if somebody does come in here and for some reason steal what's not theirs, well then at least I'll have a crystal clear picture of them. So now, let's go inside and start opening up the barn to let the tortoises out, and I'll show you what I've done to the inside of the barn to insulate it and make it livable for the tortoises. So right off the bat, you can see some of the reflective insulation. Beneath this is a really neat type of insulation I'll show you inside here. So along with the silver reflective material used for insulation, the primary source of insulation is recycled denim material. It's just shredded up blue jeans, and there's no kidding, in a few places in here there's actually little pieces of zipper still. It's really funny. I didn't choose this for the price point over fiberglass because it's about the same price, if not a couple dollars more expensive. But something I had thought about was if the tortoises manage to somehow bust through the solid walls that you see at the bottom at tortoise level, which isn't likely, but it's not impossible. If they decide, hey, what's on the other side of this wood? Yummy, let me try this. If they eat this, it's just cotton. It's not toxic to them. They'll probably eat it and pass it right through. The fiberglass could very likely tear the insides up as it was eating it and on through its digestive system. So to avoid that potential, recycled denim. Also in here, to keep it warm at nighttime, I have two heaters going. Now, one heater could probably do the job itself, but to keep them from running constantly, I have two heaters in here that keep it nice and warm in here. As I mentioned, during the daytime, it's 50 degrees outside, or almost 60, and 95 in here. At nighttime, the insulation works pretty well, but the clear polycarbonate, there's no insulation on the front of that, so it loses heat pretty quickly, and the heaters are necessary. But with two of them, they turn themselves on and turn themselves off. Turn themselves on, turn themselves off, so it's not running all night long, destroying my electric bill. Another addition that I kind of pointed out in my last video is the air conditioning unit. It's not plugged in right now because we're in the winter time, But once summer hits and I need to put this reflective material up over this window, it's still going to get pretty warm in here just because the sun will be beating down on it. So this will actually end up keeping it down in the 80s, down in the 90s during the summertime, make it comfortable for them in here. Now, when summer hits, I'm not going to have everybody locked up in the barn at nighttime like I need to right now. I'll let them wander and do what they want to do. Now, let's go ahead and let some of these guys out. On the other side of the rubber flaps are these little trap doors, or like a drawbridge almost. Growing. If you look over here, this is meant to be for the Burmese Tart tortoises. They don't eat anywhere near as much as the Galapagos tortoises do, and they don't come out. They're not out here full time just yet. I'm thinking I'm going to wait till they get a little bit bigger before they're out here full time. But you can see all the green, the various clovers that I've planted. These are a native clover, and these are some of the things that I've planted out here with a little bit of time, actually a small amount of water and all of the sun. This is what their paddocks look like. This over here is Titan's paddock, so there are some rundown spots where he walks all the time, but there's also a lot of clover growth over here. He comes out here, he munches on it, and he goes back in. In addition to all of the clovers and lowbrows that I planted for them, I also put a couple of mulberry trees in here. Probably by the end of next summer, these guys will be bearing fruit, so that I'll have seasonal fruit for the tortoises and turtles that end up out here. As green and lush as these two paddocks are on this side, let's go and have a look at what the Galapagos tortoises do. Just outside of the paddocks are some of the seeds that have either escaped on their own before I had the trench filled in, but also some of these are from the harvester ants trying to carry the seeds up and over and dropping some of the seeds. But you can see these are growing just as big as on the other side. They're almost the size of lettuce, really. But if you look into the paddocks, you can see that very green, but also very, very short. These guys are the best gardeners ever. When I added the sprinklers down here, I put enough PVC to have various branches, and one branch is for my hose, so that whenever I need to, I can come out here and refresh their water bowls before they come pouring out. They hear it. A concern that some people might have is it's 60 degrees out and I'm letting the tortoises out wandering around. Why would I do that? Well, I understand thermodynamics. What that means is, even though the air temperature is only 60 degrees, with the sun beating down in here, as you can see in just a few short minutes, these tortoise shells are heated up to over 100 degrees. To more visually illustrate my point, you can see that the ground temperature is still in the 60s. The wood barriers are in the 50s and 60s. But when we come over here and we look at Fitz's shell, see that some places on his shell are not only in the high 90s, but actually up around 100 degrees. Similarly, Beagles, the ground in his area is in the 60s, and when we look at him, he also has some warm spots on him over 100 degrees. And the tortoises are smart enough to thermoregulate. They know they'll come out. If the sun goes away and it starts getting breezy out here, they'll walk back into the area that they know is nice and warm for them. What you're seeing now is the typical morning routine. These guys come out, sun themselves, move around a lot. Usually one of the first things you do is get a drink once they realize the water's been cleaned out and freshened up. And then they spend the rest of the day clipping the lawn and keeping it nice and short. Now that I've freshened up their water and these guys are on their way out, we'll leave them to do their tortoise things and enjoy the sunny day that they have ahead of them. Thank you for coming to my channel. If you like this video, go ahead and click the little thumbs up like button down there at the bottom of the screen. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any updates. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.